When I attended undergrad at Eastern Michigan University, I went to an event that hosted all the Black organizations. And at this event, I met the organization called Poetry Society and promised to attend their meeting the following Sunday. So I went. And as the meeting began, I started to see people trickle into the room and stand into the back. And at this point, I was a bit confused, unsure if I was at the right place at the wrong time. But as the meeting's agenda was announced, at the end they asked for something called late poems. And unbeknownst to me, when you're late, you have to perform a poem, whether it's one written from scratch or one you already had. The requirements were broad. There were no stipulations on late poems. Now, most people would think this would cause fear or anxiety, and it did. But most importantly, it taught us to always be prepared to bring something new to the conversation. Because when you're in a room, your presence matters. And when you speak up, it's your floor. This is one of the many lessons poetry has taught me. Now, the lessons vary from writing relieves pain to writing relives pain. But I learned a lot about myself and the people around me. That even if the message is late, there's still a message to be delivered. So that when the people in the back of the room are coming in, they're not afraid to speak up because they'll be prepared to bring something new to the conversation. Historically, all these identities were made to be separated, whether it be by age, sex, or race. But ultimately, in the end, we are all fighting for the same fight, to be included and heard. So that's what makes a movement so important. It gives the voiceless a voice. And what connects us all is the art to be able to communicate our stories, so that when we go out into the world, we'll be prepared to bring something new in conversations, in meetings, or in speeches. We won't just have to come in and stand in the back of the room. What inspired me to write this poem was the climate and chaos of our country. From the murder of Breonna Taylor to the lack of support from our justice system, whose job it is to protect us. Freedom from social justice movements sometimes arrives late, but you still must grapple for what you believe in. You still must fight to be heard. And that's what's so important, because you cannot let go. And when you're prepared to talk and come into the room, people will listen. The requirements are broad. There are no stipulations on late poems. When you ask people what makes a movement, most will say unity, passion, togetherness. And all these things are true. But what truly makes a movement is the desire to evolve. Since the separation of Pangea, humans have felt more grounded by growth and solid by soil. Movement is using the earth as a compass and using its magnetic pull to push you to want to achieve better. It is the building blocks to creating homes within stones that have to withstand the avalanches of human error, the ones that leave no room for the manipulating I'm sorries, the apologies that require action. It's having Marsha P. Johnson throw the first stone at Stonewall, because trans rights are a rocky conversation that has laid more heads at headstones than heart disease. It is the Rosa Parks, sitting in the seat of resistance, whose cushions can't get comfortable to make being Black a grand conversation. The Me Too movement that gives survivors a platform. Sometimes what makes a movement is just needing to talk or listen. Because when you shoot the messenger, the message is lost in the fire of the bullet. And we cannot take a stand if we must come to a standstill. We cannot walk or march for our lives and protect our students from gun laws, or march from Selma to Montgomery and connect at 54 miles from 50 states and 4 centuries of segregation, or gather on the largest single-day protest for the autonomy and protection of women's bodies, because we cannot choose if we are not free to make our own choices. Reform begins with a step forward. And without change, we are just listening to the same song stuck on repeat, because most of us would rather sway to the same tune than try to figure out what the move meant. Storm the Capitol and make the country for lowercase, all in the name of hate. The US Senate would rather cut the red wire, make a split decision, and give only $600 for months in a pandemic. And politicians recognize that the system is designed to fail. But letting American citizens become casualties isn't a big enough issue to detonate political outreach. So we burst into lobbies to lobby. We scatter into polls to vote. We erupt into petitions to advance. We blast, shatter, explode, explode, explode. Kill ourselves to save ourselves. Become martyrs, maneuvering through schools, streets, and town halls. Because as long as we exist, change will be necessary. When you ask people what makes a movement, most will say passion, togetherness, unity. And all these things are true. But what truly makes a movement is the desire to evolve. Thank you.